Thank you. Good afternoon. My objective is to share with you some considerations based on the studies we are conducting under FICOMPAS, the one that has been presented by Bern, and another study that looks into a possible financial instrument designed to reduce the impact of price volatility on the investment behavior of agricultural enterprises. In addition to this, I try to bring into my presentation also the experience of the coaching. That is great experience, I have to say. I've heard before the very nice words of the Slovenian managing authority, but I think we are also very thankful to the managing authorities that ask for the coaching, because we are learning this process as much as they are, I think. So on the basis of this element, I'm going to share with you 5 takeaways that I hope may constitute food for thought and help us improving our activity in supporting the setting up of financial instruments in agriculture and rural development. Just a few words for introduction. We know that we don't have so many instruments running, but the activity on the field is very intense, so we are very optimistic. We see that we have more or less 40 ex-ante already concluded or underway out of 118 RDPs, so it's already an important achievement. We have some instruments that are at the final stages of the implementation process, and we have seen today the excellent examples from Italy and Slovenia. And we know for direct experiences, for our direct experience of managing authorities that have just launched the ex-ante assessment process, but also have very ambitious time schedule for the setting up of the instrument. So on the basis of this, I think that 2018 might be the real turning point for financial instruments in agriculture and rural development. So my answer to the question I put on the slide is positive, but under the condition that we continue in our effort to support managing authorities with capacity building activity, coaching, information exchanges, because, and here comes the first takeaway I wanted to propose you, we have still high needs for capacity building in EAFRD. To give you an example, in the framework of the study on programming financial instrument, managing authority have been asked about their evaluation of the legal framework, and their vision is quite critical, actually. You know, they say it's complicated. But then, digging a bit deeper into their answer, we see that there are elements to think that this is more based on the limited knowledge, actually, than on the content of the regulation itself. First of all, we have a quite high rate of no answer to the question, and we need to consider that the interview were conducted on managing authority that had at least expressed a concrete interest in financial instruments, so we're supposed to know at least the basis of the regulation. In addition to this, also the analysis of the qualitative analysis of the answer to the interview suggests this. And finally, this is a very interesting point. When we consider only managing authorities that have already engaged somehow in the ex-ante process, at least with preparatory work, we see that the situation changes completely, with 60% of the managing authorities say that the legislation does not constrain the use of financial instrument in EAFRD. So this is, I think, is a quite clear finding from this study. From the study, we have got also some indication on the preferred form of support from the managing authorities, with face-to-face form of support being the preferred ones, workshop, the coaching, training, while written documents are considered useful in case they relate to practical experiences in the case of the case studies, or guidance for legal interpretation is also appreciated by the managing authorities. Second element is about the importance of the ex-ante assessment process. As you can see in the graph, when asked about the difficulties of conducting an ex-ante assessment, the managing authorities are quite evenly split in their opinion. 50% say it's very complex, others are a bit more positive, but the important message is that 65% of the managing authorities think that this is a very useful process, and a majority of them is also ready to implement the findings of the suggestions of the ex-ante assessment that then are considered valuable. And actually, on the basis of our direct experience on the field, we think that this is not only a very important document for the decision process of the managing authorities, but it's also a learning process for managing authorities, and also a process in which managing authorities have the occasion to engage with the RDP stakeholders and raise awareness also among them about the importance of the financial instrument and the contribution they can give to the objective of the rural development policy. Third element is that we see a strong preference for tailor-made type of instruments with the off-the-shelf instrument not used, and also the option to contribute to central instrument is, for the moment, from what we can see, not used at level of the EAFRD managing authorities. We need also to consider that actually regarding the off-the-shelf instruments, it's true that are not used as such, but they also are often a reference. This model are used as reference in the ex-ante assessment, so this is also an important element that we need to consider. Also, the SME initiative is not used in EAFRD, while in ERDF we have some very important experience in terms of size and performance. And here again, lack of knowledge is a very important element, because you can see when we ask the managing authorities an evaluation of the SME initiative, and if this was well suited to the use under EAFRD, they were basically unable to answer. And it's not that they were unaware of the existence of the ex-ante assessment. They were unable to evaluate actually this proposal, this regulation option. In addition to this, also the regulation, we have to say, has an impact, because the idea of having an additional RDP also in the discussion we are having in the targeted coaching is something that is considered really cumbersome, and that discourages really managing authorities from considering this option. This is what we see. Fourth element is just 5 takeaways, so we're almost finished. The fourth one is that we notice also a strong preference for financial instruments targeted to investment in SMEs. Other areas like infrastructure and microfinance are not completely absent from the text of RDPs or from ex-ante assessment, but are mostly exceptions, and from the feedback we have, these are not going probably to materialize in a real instrument. So I think that in the future, one of the tasks of ECOMAS will be to look also into this area to understand if a financial gap exists in this area that can be covered, and if there are specific constraints in the setup of instruments in this area under EAFRD. We notice also a strong preference for financial instruments and grant combination. Normally, EAFRD managing authorities consider still financial instruments as something that needs to be complementary with grants. So this is also an element to be considered, and maybe an area also of support to be offered to the managing authority, but we have heard reassuring words from the Commission before, so this is also an important element. Final point is about the possibility to have financial instruments that are more targeted to the specific needs of the agricultural sector. We know that in the agricultural sector we have specific needs related, for example, to the seasonality of the production that has an impact on the cash flow structure of farms. In addition to this, there are the risk of weather-related events, and then the price volatility. In particular, price volatility has been discussed in the last 2 years with regard in particular to the milk sector. And on this, FICOMPAS is conducting a study that is almost finished, actually will be published probably after the summer, that looked into the possibility of a financial instrument designed to reduce the impact of price volatility on the investment behavior of farmers. This was based on a specific experience, the so-called Milflex Fund set up in Ireland from Glanbia, that is a cooperative of milk producers involving private and public investors. The specificity of this fund is that it offers loans with flexible repayment schedule that adjusts automatically on the basis of the variation of the milk price. The aim of the study was to understand the possible replicability of the study of this instrument in other contexts, and if this could be considered as a reference model for the EAFRD support. The analysis has been conducted in Ireland, France, and Italy. I jump directly to the conclusion, and this is my last slide. Our conclusion is that the Milkflex product instrument is something a bit too much dependent on the specific geographical and economic conditions in which it has been set up. So it cannot be really regarded as a standard model, as a reference model for EAFRD support. But the interesting thing is that with the study, we discovered that some flexible products, some flexible loans already exist in the market and are offered by private banks. And we found in particular a very interesting experience, the so-called prêt à piloter loan offered by Crédit Agricole. It's a loan contract that allows the borrower to ask basically for a modification of the repayment schedule. On the basis of this, the suggestion we put in the study was that probably the EAFRD framework can build on this already existing experience in order to promote financial instruments and financial products that can better target the specific needs of the sector. So the next step will be to understand if these products exist also in other member states. So as I said, we studied just 3 member states. Another element will be to understand to which extent the EAFRD support can improve the conditions under which these flexible products are offered, and to which extent we can also convince other new additional financial intermediaries to offer similar products. And this was my last consideration. So thank you very much.